Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here today with Jane Ayres, and you all remember me from last year when or not, was it last year? I can't remember now, but I think it was maybe last year or the year before. We did interviews of the Short of It family members who put information into put information in. What the hell, where'd that come from? Submitted poetry to the Short of It, and we produced the first volume, which was called The Short of It, Sound of Brilliance. And this year we've got new people on board, Jane being one of them. I'd like to have her introduce herself and tell you a little bit more about her writing journey or her life or however she wants to present herself. So Jane, the floor is yours.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Well, hello. Yeah, I'm Jane Ayres. I'm based in the UK, in Kent. Sorry, I have a chair that swivels, so when I adjust it, it moves. Yeah, I have always written. I started writing when I was, well, before my teens. So it's been there throughout my life, but I didn't discover poetry until very much later in life, and very unexpectedly. And I've spent most of my life writing pony books for children.
Oh, nice.
For pony mad girls. I wrote a lot of those, 40 actually. Yeah, because I was a horse mad teenager, so I spent a good deal of my time doing that. And I've also dabbled for about 10 years. I also wrote erotica under a completely different pen name, I hasten to add. And that was an interesting diversion. It was, I suppose, I didn't want to kind of put all my eggs in one basket, so to speak, because things have changed. I mean, publishing changes so fast anyway, doesn't it? And when I started writing the pony books, there was still a big market for pony books. But as time went on, and I did it for a long time, things started to change. So I thought I needed to kind of think about other possibilities. And I was writing to earn money from writing. So I didn't really spend much time writing a piece of work just for the sheer joy of it, I suppose. It was always because there was a contract or to a brief. And I probably thought I'd spend the rest of my life doing that. Then all sorts of things happened, and I ended up, I had a hysterectomy, and then I went to university and did an MA in creative writing. And I kind of linked them together because they are connected. And when I did the MA in creative writing, you could choose what you wanted to specialise in, and I chose to specialise in writing a novel because I thought that was kind of what I would do. And it's something I tried on and off throughout my life to do, not very successfully.
I tried once. I failed miserably. It just got too depressing.
It's such a daunting task. I mean, a novel is just so huge, and the pony books were, yes, they were novels, but they were only about 30,000 word max, so much shorter. So yeah, I was kind of a bit daunted by it, but I thought, no, I'll do an MA in creative writing. I love learning. I did an MSc in science communication and society when I was in my 50s, and it was just so lovely. I mean, did that for the sheer enjoyment of it because I loved learning the new stuff. So I know that studying has always been very stimulating, and I really enjoy studying with younger people as well. It's just so interesting and exciting to be in that kind of environment. So on the MA, everything was kind of pootling along, and I was sort of dealing with the aftermath of the hysterectomy, and I found writing was really cathartic. And we had one of the modules was memoir and life writing, which is something I've never ever done. I mean, there are bits of my experiences in everything I write, as for any writer, but I'd never actually sat down and wrote a memoir type thing. And we were encouraged to do this, and I thought, well, this is going to be really, really hard to do. And I found that once I started, it was like opening a floodgate, and I
Mhm.
was able to write a lot about experiences, and sometimes really traumatic experiences. And partway through the course, I met another mature student, similar age, in our 50s, and she was really interesting. And she said to me, "Well, have you ever thought of having a go at poetry?" So I said, "Well,
Mhm.
really, no, because I don't really know very many poets." I'd enjoyed the poetry of E. Cummings. I absolutely love E. Cummings and Edith Sitwell. They were about the only poets I'd ever really read. And although I had written a little bit of poetry in my teens, which was more sort of angst poetry, it wasn't some, I didn't never thought of myself as a poet. So she said, "Well, why don't you see if you can go along to one of the modules, and you can sit in on the module as an addition, and you
Yeah.
can take part in the seminars, but you won't be assessed. But it's a way
Mhm.
of
Just
kind of
capturing more
experiencing it."
information. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I sat in on one session, and it was just, it blew my mind, frankly. It was just amazing. And I just was so stimulated by it that I loved going to the seminars and listening to everybody's work. And the tutor was really brilliant. And I was allowed on the last one, even though my work wasn't assessed, I wrote a poem about my mum
Mhm.
and the hysterectomy, um, and read it out, and it went down really well. And a couple of the younger students said to me, "You know, you really ought to do more of this." So when I did my next module, which was kind of more experimental writing, I was producing what I thought was prose, and other students were saying, "You're writing poetry. Why don't you just, just go for it?"
Mhm.
So I did, and so I took a risk, and at the last minute, I changed my dissertation proposal, which would have been writing a novel, and opted for a portfolio of poetry, having never been assessed for any of the poetry, which was a bit of a risk. But I thought, no, I just would love to do this, and so that's what I did, and kind of not looked back since then. It literally was like someone turning a tap on, and the words, to start with, anyway, everything was just flooding out. I literally could not stop writing down. It was the most amazing experience. I have to say, it's not like that anymore.
Yeah, I understand that.
It didn't last forever. It lasted about a year, I think. But I think of everything that I write, for me, the poetry matters more to me.
Mhm.
I really, it's really important to me. It helps me to process things, and I just absolutely love it. And alongside the poetry, I do write commercial women's fiction for
Mhm.
magazines like People's Friend and Yours and Woman's Weekly. And
Nice.
I really, really enjoy doing that. And I just found that the interesting thing was that with the poetry, it impacted on all of my writing. It changed the way I thought about writing. It changed the
Mhm.
way that I wrote my short stories, my novels. Sorry, I'm going to cough now. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
It just had the most amazing impact. So yeah, so I'll stop now.
Okay, well, I was gonna ask you because that's interesting that you say that. Do you also feel that writing has impacted how you think too, though? Because I find that
Yeah,
it definitely has, at least for me, I feel like when I approach a subject now or a theme or something or an emotion even, um, I will digest it a lot more than I did previously. I think before emotions just used to impact me and I was very reactionary. But now I feel like when situations occur that either demand to be written about or, demand to have a voice, um, I feel like I really have to sit with it a lot longer, and really go through each every little molecule that gets raised up in my bloodstream. It's the only way I can say it. But I really enjoy the process a lot more, especially since I've gotten into poetry. So I thought that was interesting when you said that. So do you find that
yeah,
do you agree?
yeah, I do definitely. I mean, I write everything down, and
Mhm.
I'm my memory is really poor,
Mhm.
and so I write absolutely everything. I have a day book
Yeah.
that I write things in, and yeah, I do find that it, like you say, it does help you to process things. It helps you if you're thinking in words, then yeah, it does help you think about things. And often I mean, when I'm writing poetry, I very rarely will sit down and say, right, I'm going to write a poem about. I actually can't do that. I find that incredibly difficult. So the way I write poetry is, it is just I just have a pad everywhere. There's post-it pads everywhere, and
I've got my
I
phone and a speaker on it. And whenever a thought comes, what I do is I just record it. It's not even just when I'm driving, anytime, because that way I won't lose that piece of paper. I have my phone, so it's right there. My thoughts recorded, and even the what do you call it? The tone and the inflection is in there. So I really remember the emotions when I get back to writing it. Like, it may be inconvenient for me at that time,
yeah.
but then I can get back to it. So that may be another resource for you.
That's a really good idea. I never think of that, and I have my phone with me all the time.
Right.
I really should think of doing that because, as you say, sometimes things come to you at very inconvenient times, and you think I've got to hold on to that. I've got to hold on to that. It might even be a word or a phrase, and you think I must hold on to that. And
Yep.
sometimes you can't write it down. But yeah, so the post-its just get covered in words basically. It might
Yeah.
be a random word, it might be a group of words, a sentence, and then eventually I will have just pages of words, and then at some point it feels right to see if I can see if any of them work together, and I'll look for patterns, and then a poem starts to form. And
Mhm.
I mean, they're abstract in a way because what I love is the sound that words make, and the rhythm and the music and the pacing and all of those things. That's what I love about it. But they do still have some kind of narrative. Sometimes it's a
Mhm.
very obscure narrative. But what I find, and I mean, I
I
really
use the
hope.
word mysterious because I find there's a lot of writers out there that just really hide the true meaning behind metaphors and imagery, and you really have to look deeply. I don't know that I prefer that type of writing because for me, I guess I'm a lazy reader. I want to have a little bit more right at the get-go so it grasps me. But still, I've seen that style of poetry where they just literally becomes like almost a mystery novel, trying to figure out what it is that they're trying to say. And sometimes I really enjoy that, especially if they use really great metaphors. But it's typically not something I like to be like direct and bold, just like I am. So, but go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
mystery is that actually mystery. That's a really good word actually. When kind of thinking about this, because I find that when I do write poetry, I mean it is the word it is exploring
Mhm.
something that's going on in my head basically.
Right.
And what I really love about, and the other word you use, hidden, what I've found so fascinating about poetry is that I mean I hide a lot in my poems,
Mhm.
and I hide in my poems, because it makes me feel less vulnerable. Whereas if you were writing a memoir and you said, right, okay, this is about my life and this is me, it's very kind of out there. But I hide quite a lot of really important stuff in my poems. But also, I find it fascinating that you can write something and you think that you're writing about one thing, and then you realize maybe a long time afterwards that actually you weren't writing about that. You were writing about something else, but you didn't
Yeah.
realize it. And I find that absolutely fascinating.
Mhm. So for you, it really is a journey of words.
Yes.
I mean, you're going through a process during your writing. That's interesting because I find there's a lot of people. I mean, there are so many different approaches to writing. Mine, yours, the next poet I'm going to interview. Everybody really approaches it differently. I mean, we all obviously hope to impact our surroundings and be heard with what we're trying to say, but I still find it fascinating that we can all, like, if we all enjoy poetry, we have different motivations to do it, and we have different approaches to writing it, and then how we actually successfully bring across a message is even different. The different types of poems that are out there, the syllabic ones, non-syllabic, prose. free verse. Everybody has a different way of expressing. So that's, to me, makes poetry incredibly exciting, because you get to be exposed to so many different types of presentations. And again, the short of it was because I really love that small, succinct type writing, but still be able to express volumes of information. For me, that is key with the short of it. That's what I love about it. And I'm really so glad that you submitted your work, and we featured you last year, and I'm so happy to include you in the upcoming volume 2. And for the audience, the book title of volume 2 is Reflections and Revelations, and I will probably include a thumbnail of the book cover in the interview, so you'll see it, or I'll send you a link to wherever, so you can get a grasp of what the new book. It's going to be beautiful. We've got new people, which is awesome, and then we also have an increased volume of just really good writing. So I want to thank you for becoming a part of that whole process.
I'm really grateful, and so happy that you like my poems, and it's really, it really helps, it helps your motivation and your morale, especially if you've had loads and loads of rejections.
Yeah.
It's just so nice. And also, you were saying about the short of it. I love really tiny poems. I love little tiny bits of prose. I love that and I love the fact that poetry is a short form, so you can have a complete work, and it's not going to take you 2 years like a novel.
Right.
So I love that you can have something complete. But I really, my favorite kind of poetry is really short, as you're saying, where every single word is working, and so much can be expressed in maybe 3 sentences. That is the sort of poetry that I'm especially drawn to.
Me too. And this is what I found out in my journey when I first started. I mean, I started with a published book. That was the funny part. I got on WordPress with a book to announce it, that it was out. It was a collaboration between my bestie, Terry Susie did the artwork, and I did the book, or the writing and the poetry, and loved it. And then that following year, all I did was investigate poetry and all the different types. I, unlike you, did not go to school. I never got an MA. I didn't do any of that. I didn't do any of the traditional stuff, but I wanted to write. So anyway, that following year, I studied different poetry styles and poets, and just had a great time. I wrote something every single day, and then published another book, which was awesome. But then I also honed in on the micro poetry. I absolutely love haiku and senryu. I think they're top notch, especially when you've got people who are writing really good pieces with, like I said, such deep guttural meanings in so few words. It's just, I love that. So yeah, I definitely, I'm with you on that. I wanted to say, I'm really impressed with you, though, that you got your MA, and I think you put it in your bio at 57. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That is amazing. Good for you. And I hope that inspires other people to do the same. I mean, I don't think I ever will, because I hate school. I do. But a lot of people have told me that college is such a different environment from like high school and middle school, whatever. But that's quite an accomplishment. What prompted, I guess, I know I heard from your journey when that all fell into place, but why did you not pursue it earlier in life, I guess, is my question.
Well, I got my, I mean, I love learning. That's what my motivation for life, basically. I just love learning. And I mean, I did a music degree in the 1980s, and I went as a mature student then. So I was in my 20s when I did that. Because at that time I thought I was going to be a singer.
Awesome.
Because I love music, and I wrote music, and I sang, played the piano. But that didn't work out, and I, completely deviated from that path, and did all sorts of other things and lots of other jobs. And thought I was going to have a career, and so I did a marketing diploma, the distance learning over a couple of years while I was working full time. So and that was really interesting. I've always studied. Whatever I'm doing, I've always studying something,
You love
and
learning.
I just love it. And
Mhm.
I think with the MA, I mean that again, it was kind of a bit of a strange route. I did the MSc first in Science and Communication, and I did that after both my parents died within 5 months of each other of cancer, and it was a really awful time. And um, I decided then I wanted to study something for the sheer hell of it, basically, not because I'm going to have a career in this, whatever. I was interested in science. I was rubbish at school at science, but there were so many developments in science that interested me that I thought, well, okay, we'll learn. I'll learn more about it. So that's why I did that, and it was absolutely fascinating, and I loved the experience over 2 years. Again, such a variety of other students, and I like study, I like university campus, I like all of that kind of feel.
Mhm.
And I thought after that, though, I thought, right, that's it, I'm not going to be doing anything like this again, I'm not going to be doing any more study, done.
Yeah.
And then I think it was partly because I was working for the university then in an admin job. Thought I'm going to spend well, I'm just going to carry on doing this admin job at university, basically. Then I thought, oh, lots of people around me are doing PhDs. Oh, that wouldn't it be? This is not the right reason to do a PhD. Wouldn't it be great if I could get a grant to do a PhD? Then I could spend 3 years researching, which I absolutely
Mhm.
love researching,
Mhm.
and get an allowance for it. Wouldn't that be fantastic? How
That'd
how
be
hard
great.
how hard is it to do? But it wasn't as easy as I thought. I thought I would do a PhD in creative writing, and part of the PhD, well, the PhD was basically writing a novel. Your proposal was a novel, but it wasn't as simple as you writing a novel. And I tried, and I didn't know what I was doing in the proposal. I really didn't, and got rejected, and got very downcast about it. Really downcast. Then I thought, oh, maybe I'll try again. So I tried again, um, and didn't get anywhere with it. And then a friend said, "Well, look, if you want to do a PhD in creative writing, really, you have to do the MA route first. You have to do the MA." And I said, "Well, I don't want to be doing that because I've got an MSc. I don't want to do anything else like that." But I thought about it and looked at the syllabus and thought, oh, actually, that's quite interesting because it had, things on that I'd not done
Yeah.
before, like the memoir and the poetry. Oh, yeah, interesting. I contacted the university and they also thought I should do the MA first. So I applied, and to my astonishment, because when I went to university, they don't. I was writing commercial fiction, and they were
Mhm.
really anti-commercial fiction. They were literary fiction, did not like commercial fiction at all. So none of what I was doing would have counted, basically. But yes, I got on the course. But the reason I did it was because I thought, okay, this will be my stepping stone to the PhD, and then I've got a better chance of getting the PhD. But it didn't really work like that at all. And I mean, I did eventually get offered a place on a PhD, but by then I couldn't afford to do it. It's too expensive. I needed to work. I needed a salary, and by then I'd lost all interest because my proposal had been about writing a novel, and I really didn't want to write a novel because I was
Yeah.
interested in poetry instead. So, so I don't think I'll ever do a PhD. I know you could do poetry, but I just thought, no, that's it.
But at least it puts you in the direction of, so that's a good thing. I mean, it all turned out for the right reasons and how
Yes,
where you ended up. So that's actually a really good thing. But that's interesting. I like the fact that you challenge yourself at any age. That's awesome that you're continually learning too, which to me, I think that's the most important thing in life is to challenge yourself. And always my favorite motto is I want to best myself every time. It doesn't matter whether it's a task, whether it's a project, whether it's just how I live, my lifestyle, whatever. I just want to be better than what I was yesterday. I hate to do this because I love talking to you or listening to you. I've been mostly fascinated by what you've been saying, but I do have to kind of wrap it up now.
yeah, sure.
Um, Please select which one of the poems that you that you is going to be selected for the book, Reflections and Revelations, we'd love to have you share that with the audience.
Okay, they're tiny, so it won't
That's
take me
fine.
very
I know
long.
it's a little different to read them. I think that unfortunately, I don't think the spoken tiny poems come across as good as actually reading them. But still, it's nice to get a little bit of a preview. So go for it.
Okay. Well, I'll read these shiny gifts,
Okay.
which is kind of about writing poetry in a way, I suppose.
Okay.
These shiny gifts. We always tell stories, things that shine, allure, allure for those who let daydreams be poems and poems daydreams.
Powerful. Thank you for doing that. And I want to thank you for coming here. But also I wanted to ask you, because in your bio, we didn't have like do you blog anywhere? Do you have a place I can send the audience to?
No, I don't. I do have a website.
Okay. Would you do
And
me a favor and email that to me? And then I'll make sure to
yeah,
include that in the link for this video, so people
yeah.
can get to know you a little bit better, and not just through the Reflections and Revelations, but also on your own site, so that they can check in with you, tune in, subscribe, whatever, to continue
No,
further the
that would be
journey.
great. And I did have my first collection published last July.
Oh,
So the
nice.
details of that will be on there, and they're poems about food and family.
Wonderful. Include that link for where it is. I'll put that into the
Okay,
website, or into
thank
the
you.
interview box link as well, so people can find you there. But thank you, Jane. I appreciate the fact that you spent some time with me today, and I look forward to reading more of your work. The next submission cycle starts in July, so be prepared. We would love to have some more work presented here. Okay.
Oh,
So,
thank you very much. And thank you so much for publishing me and for having a chat with me. And and I hope I didn't ramble on, because I do tend
oh,
to do
don't
that.
worry about it. Everybody has a different style. You go with it. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But thank you for joining the Short of It family.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll
Yeah.
talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.